I am Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I want to welcome you to our newest addition to Missouri's Moving It Fitness series, Movement for Life. Now, this class is suitable for all levels of fitness, and Movement for Life will be offered for 6 weeks, and it'll be followed by 6 weeks of Yoga for All, which starts on March 10th. We offer classes called Forever Fit and Zumba Light as well. And though all of our programming is suited for people 50 plus, it's available to anyone of any age throughout the US. That would be the beauty of the internet. To learn more about these opportunities, please go to aarp.org/movingit. You'll also find information about our new sweepstakes for a Fitbit Versa 3 and other prizes. We at AARP realize that programs like Movement for Life can be a great option for caregivers who may not be able to attend a traditional fitness class, or for those of you who may be staying home to reduce your risk during the pandemic. AARP has resources for caregivers, up-to-date COVID-19 information, and technology information on aarp.org/nearyou. Now, before we get started, I want to make sure that everybody can see and hear. So in a minute, I'm going to be muting all of you except the instructor. That way, if your phone rings or your dog barks, you won't be distracting for everyone. Right now, you should make sure that you've pinned Tyler Ferguson. That way, Tyler, who is your instructor, will stay on throughout the class, and you'll need to see her. So you can pin her. She's waving at you now, yay, by going to her video feed, her little Hollywood square, and click on the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. And that'll give you the option to pin her. Click pin in that options box. If you need more information about how to use Zoom, let us know in the email survey you'll receive, and we'll let you know about resources. Now, without further ado, let's get started with Movement for Life. Our instructor today will be Tyler Ferguson from Caliente Fitness. Tyler, tell us a little bit about yourself and get us started.
All right. Thank you, Diane. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of you who are joining me today. I can't tell you what a thrill it is to see all these boxes on my screen and share this movement practice with you. I'm a movement coach and a yoga teacher. I teach movement with just your body weight and with all kinds of other tools and weights. But it's really important for me to share with you over the course of these next several weeks together, the importance of moving every day. And what I like to say is, I like to move on the days that I want to feel good. So without any further ado, let's talk about what that means. So come to standing on your mat, moving on the days that it feels good. It doesn't mean you have to do a bunch of burpees or some push-ups or run sprints. It just means you have to get up and move. Aha. Okay, so I was muted, wasn't I? All right, got it, see it. All right, we'll start right where I left off. Fine to sit down and do this class seated if that is best for you, or you can come to standing. I love to train barefoot. There are many benefits of training barefoot, and we'll get into those in a later class. So if you're comfortable removing your shoes and socks now, please do. As you arrive in your standing position, your feet want to be about hips or shoulders distance apart, with your toes moving forward as much as that feels good in your body. So you might notice that your feet kind of rotate out a little bit. So if it's comfortable in the knees to bring them forward, do so at the pace that works for you. And let's just begin to move back and forth a slight bit. If you'd like to have a chair in front of you for balance during this work as a prop, that's fine too. If you're just not sure about your balance, that's fine too. And I want you to connect to the bottom of your feet. Feel the weight go in the heels, feel the weight move into the toes, and allow the toes to spread out So you're addressing all the tissue on the bottom of the foot as if you're kneading dough and warming up that tissue. And then pause with me in a standing position and note the heel in each foot, note the big toe mound in each foot, and note the piggy toe mound. And see if you can distribute your weight equally between the big toe mound, the piggy toe mound, and the heel in each foot. Standing there, bring your shoulders over your ankles. Sometimes we have a tendency to stand with our shoulders a little forward or sometimes a little back. So notice how you stand and see if you can bring the shoulders right over the ankles. And then as if there's a little hook pulling the crown of your head long, reach up long through the crown of your head, draw your chin in slightly, just to recruit some postural muscles and see how that feels in your body. Bring your arms down along your side. Take a breath into this stance and then release. So now we're going to move a little bit more activity into our stance. So I want you to soften and bend the knees just a little bit. We tend to get stability by locking out our legs. So I'd like for you to soften and bend your knees and then start to crush the ground together. So your feet aren't actually moving, it's just an activation. Start to crush the ground together and notice the muscles that you feel in your legs. That might be these inner adductor muscles, the inner thigh muscles that turn on when you crush the ground together. Give me a nod or a thumbs up if you can feel that. Good, excellent. And then release the crush. Now do the opposite. Let's tear the ground apart with our feet. Work up in the hips. Don't let that torque the knees too much. And then release that. And then just move back and forth. Let's crush the ground, get nice and tall, release, tear the ground apart, get nice and tall. So all we're doing, keep doing this work. We're just recruiting more muscles. We're recruiting more tissue in standing. All right. So if you're somebody who gets most of your exercise, keep crushing and tearing just by walking, mostly walking or sitting down or going upstairs, you're using the muscles in the front and the back of the body, but we're not getting into these side stabilizers. So that's what we're finding right now. We're waking up these stabilizing muscles in the side of the body. Okay, and release there. Good work. Let's now go back to bending the knees. We're going to slightly tear the ground apart just a little bit, but I want you to find some rotation in the foot. So starting with your right foot, as if your foot was on the lid of a jar, can you slightly energetically rotate and twist the foot? Maybe you feel your glute come on. Take it the opposite direction with the left foot. Maybe you feel the glutes come on, soft bend in the knees, lengthen, shoulders up over hips, long crown of the head. Breathe into this, and then try to maintain this external rotation in the hips, this torque. Now bring your shoulders up to your ears and slide your shoulder blades down your back. Bring the shoulders up into the ears and down the back. Maybe you can connect the breath to this. Inhale, shoulders up. Exhale, shoulders down. Move at your pace. Inhale, shoulders up. And exhale, shoulders down. Good. Take a rest from that activation if you'd like. So when we talk about engaging our core engagement comes from the hips. So that external rotation in the hips helps us stabilize the hips, and that's the beginning of engaging our core. Let's move up to our shoulders. Did you know that your shoulders are also part of your core? So let's inhale the shoulders up, exhale the shoulders down, open up the palms, and you'll come into this little shoulder pack. So that's called pack when the shoulders are down. One more time, turn the backs of the hands forward, inhale the shoulders up, exhale the palms open and pack. So now we're engaging our latissimus dorsi muscle, which is also part of engaging the core. Let's discover our shoulder health. Bring your arms up to the sides and see how that feels in your body, and then let the arms float down. Let's do that a couple of times. Get this chair out of the way, float the arms up and down. Maybe move with the breath. Float the arms up and float the arms down. So as you're doing this work, it's important that you don't feel any pain when you do this work. Slight discomfort or crunchiness or stiffness, that's okay, but never any sharp pains. Pause with me here in this lateral position, hands the same height as the shoulder, and then just bend at the elbows, bring your palms forward. Now we're going to rotate the palms down like little paddles. You don't have to go all the way down. We're just working the rotator cuff a little bit. Remember, we want to keep the shoulders up, down, and packed as we do these little rotations for our rotator cuff. So just check in and see how your right and left arm feel today, your right and left shoulder. Make sure there's not any sharp pains in that movement. And then our final movement, we're going to reach overhead. And that can be where you can sometimes feel pain. So reaching overhead and then pulling down into your goalpost or your cactus shape. Yay, Chiefs, goalpost. Inhaling the arms up. Exhaling arms down. Now, if you have shoulder pain reaching above your head, I want you to stop. Don't do that anymore. And if you'd like to participate, when I cue the arms to go up overhead, you can keep them right here, or you can just come across your body if you're feeling any shoulder pain. If I bind my arms, don't go to your knees right now. If I bind my arms overhead and that feels a little pinchy or tight or sharp in your shoulders, maybe you could take this bind. So those are some options for your shoulders during the workout. Okay, let's get started. Let's corkscrew the hips. Slightly bend the knees and lengthen up through the spine. Bring the chin in. Let's inhale the arms up one more time. Big inhale. Exhale down. And then bring your hands up to your chest. You're going to drop your right ear to the right shoulder and pause. Make sure you have a slight bend in the knees. Don't lock out in the knees. And then bring your head back up to center. Drop your left ear toward your left shoulder and pause. Come back up to center. Drop your right ear to your right shoulder, and then find your opposite or left jaw and pull up and away through that opposite jaw. So you want to create length in the neck. You might feel that length that you create. Now we're going to switch. So bring your chin down to your chest, bend the knees a teeny bit, and then take left ear to left shoulder. When you stand, don't lock out. Pull up with your right cheek or your right jaw to the opposite side of the room. Keep the shoulders down. And then let's switch and move a little bit faster. Chin down, bend the knees. Right ear, right shoulder, left jaw pulls up. Switch. Chin down, bend the knees. Left ear, right jaw pulls up. 2 more times. Switch. Chin down, bend the knees. Stand tall, but don't lock out. Right ear, right shoulder. And final time. Chin down, bend the knees. Left ear to left shoulder, right jaw pulls up. Don't lock out the knees. And we'll come to center. Keeping your hands right here at the chest, we're going to work on neck glide. So by the way, that was neck flexion in a lateral position. Actually, let's go forward flexion and backward flexion right now. Getting nice and tall through the crown of the head, draw the chin in and reaching up. Notice if you can feel length in the back of the neck. That's what we're going for, that length. Keeping that length and that energy upward, draw the chin down to the chest, nice and slow. And just enjoy the stretch that you get in the back of the neck. Keep that upward energy happening. And then lift the chin back up. Maintain that upward energy as you lift the chin up to the ceiling and start to open the throat towards me, towards the screen. But you're not letting your head drop back. Draw the chin back down. So sometimes in this work, you're going to have to listen to my voice because your eye gaze is going to go away from the screen. So as the chin comes down, you're no longer looking at the screen, you're looking down at the floor. And then one more time, lift the chin back up, keep that upward energy as you open up the front of the throat, and now you're looking more up toward the ceiling. And then bring the chin back to center. So that upward energy that we create, what we're trying to avoid is throwing our head back and bringing the shoulders up. We want to create length to bring the head back. Now let's start with our neck glides. So take the chin, bring it down in front and forward, and then up and back in that elongated position that we just experienced. And now we're gliding forward and down, up and back. This is probably a different movement for you, one that you don't do in your everyday life. So just begin to explore and feel this movement of your neck gliding forward and down, up and back. Pause for a moment, take a look in the screen. Please avoid any chicken pecking. So notice how I get this crunch in the back when my chin just goes forward. So I'm going to go down to keep the length in the back of my neck. Just a couple more rounds in these neck glides forward and back. And we're challenging our end range of our joint mobility here. Once again, no pain. Maybe some crunches might happen. Maybe some moderate discomfort, but no pain. Pause with me here, back in our neutral position. And now we're gonna glide. So I'm gonna glide my left jaw to my left shoulder, come back to center, glide right jaw to right shoulder. Come back to center, glide left, glide right. Now, if you're struggling with this one, this is a really challenging movement. What often happens is we either rotate to get there or we tilt to get there. So keeping the chin parallel with the ground and the eye gaze and the nose forward the whole time, we're gliding. One way to help you find the muscles for gliding is to split the difference about 45 degrees. So come over and forward, come back, and then come over and forward and back. That might help you find this neck glide. And then we're going to put these forward and sideways movements together. So bring your chin in, up long in the back, move over to one side, come forward and down, move over to the other side, creating a square. Keep moving, hitting those 4 points of the square. Chin is down and over to the side. You might stay right here because this is challenging enough finding these positions, or what you can do is circle out these movements and trying to find the end range of your mobility. So I noticed some people are swaying in the body as you move. That corkscrew in the hips will help you stabilize the core and isolate. Meet me in the back position. Let's go the other direction. This time, the opposite direction. I hope I'm going in the opposite direction. See if you can isolate this movement just to the cervical spine, just to the neck, and keep the rest of the body quiet. Being able to differentiate between your body parts, we're hitting those 4 points right now, is an important tool if you're doing any kind of rehab or any kind of exercise work. Now circle out those boxes. Chin is forward and down and back. Working in the core and in the hips to stabilize the body. Good job. All right, let's just shake that out. Then we'll move to the shoulders. So a couple more shoulder shrugs, up and down, up and down. And then I'd like for you to make fists and like you're gonna punch the ground. So feel the muscles of the arms come on in the fists and then bring the wrists up as the same height as your shoulder. Now we're gonna do a drill called chasing shoulders. So right shoulder is gonna go up into the ear, back and down, pack. Left shoulder, up in the ear, back down and pack. Right shoulder, up, down and pack. Left shoulder, up, down and pack. Keep doing this chasing shoulders drill with me. What we're doing is we're trying to find the latissimus dorsi or the lat muscle. So if you do one more round and pause with me here, keep one arm out, take the other hand and spread it right under the armpit. That's where your lat muscle is. When you go up, down, and pack, maybe you can feel your lat muscle turn on. Try that a couple times. Up, down, and pack, feel the lat. Up, down, and pack, feel the lat. If you can't feel it today, that's okay. But hopefully in 6 weeks you can. Let's try it on the other side. It can feel very different from one side to the other. So when your shoulder is in pack and your lat is engaged, it's connected to your body with all of this musculature rather than being forward and just connected to your body through a few little muscles that keep the shoulder connected to the body. So you want to stay in pack to be healthy. All right, we're going to take that shoulder workout. Let's go down to our elbows and hydrate our elbows. Take your wrists and face them forward and give me some thumbs like Fonzie. Bring the thumbs up to the ears and then open your arms. So now your wrists are upward to the ceiling. Close the wrists down, bend the elbows, bring the thumbs to the ears, and then open up. And then you can begin to rotate down to do that work more smoothly. And then just feel the flow of that work and imagine that you're bringing synovial fluid into your elbows and you're exploring the flexion and extension and the rotation provided by the elbow joint. So can we take that in the opposite direction? Pause with me out here with thumbs out and wrists up. So now we're going to do like a bicep curl, bring our hands towards our face, and then punch through. Open up the wrists, bend at the elbows, and punch through. So some of you may have signed on today and thought, hey, I want to run a marathon next weekend. How is this work going to help me with my marathon next weekend? Well, all of us, whether we're weekend warriors or runners or weightlifters, or we're less active in our lives, it's important that we hydrate our tissues and work through this joint mobility, regardless of your activity level. All right, we'll finish there and go into the wrists. So I want you to pretend like you're holding onto a bar, like a tube. All right, so you're gripping on that tube, and then I want you to move your wrists above the tube that you're holding onto, and then below the tube that you're holding onto. Above and below. Keep doing that, work with me. Try to make a grip in your hands as you do that, and push yourself here. Find your extreme. I find that when I go to my extreme, it's a little bit sore in my forearms. This doesn't feel great. I don't have good wrist flexion and extension. So if you're someone who spends a lot of time typing at the keyboard or on your phone, or you do a craft where you paint or knit and your hands might get tight, this is a great movement for your wrists. Wrists and forearms get tight. Pause with me here. Now you have this little bone on the wrist here. So I want you to take that bone and move it to the middle, and then move the bone away. So sometimes we want to get our elbows in there to move the bone. Try to keep your elbows out of the equation and just move in the wrists, right? Okay, so as we do this movement together, you might guess what's coming. Just like in our neck, we're going to start to put these movements together in squares and then maybe in circles. So come back to the beginning. Let's lift the wrists up above, bring the bones in, go down, and bring the bones out. Up, and then in and down and out, up and out, then in, down and out. I hope that's making sense to you. So we're just going to find these juicy circles in the wrists, and then we're going to pause. Down, we're going to go in and up and out and down and in and up and out and down, and take our movements in the other direction in the wrists. So I can hear some little pops and cracks going on in my wrists, and that's fine. We're just maybe working through, go ahead and shake that out, working through any adhesions, any places where the tissues get sticky and they stick onto one another. So we're trying to unstick ourselves today. One more hand or exercise for the wrist. I want you to bring your fingers in front of your chest. You're gonna make an A-OK, and then stack the fingers on top of your A-OK. We're gonna switch from this to an ice cream cone. So lift your pinkies up, then the fourth, then the next fingers, and then roll around so your palms are facing you like you're holding an ice cream cone. So now the backs of the hands are away and your A-OK is on top. Unspin it, come back to your A-OK. Start with the pinkies, rotate around like you're holding two big ice cream cones. And then now just have fun with it. All right, A-OK, ice cream cones. The elbows can move a little bit. And what I like to say about this exercise is pretend you're on stage and you're looking at the very back seat in the audience. And so you want to communicate this movement. So really get dramatic with this movement and notice what you feel in your forearms as you have this full expression of the digits and the wrists. Okay, let's go right back up to those shoulders. One of my favorite drills, this is called shoulder screws. So if it's comfortable for you to bring your arms wide, how are those legs doing? Are we back in our knee bend and our hip external rotation? Let's find that active stance. Take the flesh of the belly and draw it inward, get long in the spine, shoulders are out. And then starting with one arm, we're gonna elevate it, rotate it down, pack it in the back, and look over the opposite arm. And then uncurl it. We'll go to the other side. Elevate, rotate down, pack it down, pull the wrists away as you look over the opposite arm. Come out of that. We're gonna go one more time, nice and slow. Next week, we'll go a little bit faster. Elevate, rotate it down, pack it down, look over the opposite arm. We're really working the rotator cuff here. And elevate other side, rotate down, look over the opposite arm and pull the wrists apart. We'll do it a couple more times, but just a little bit faster. Elevate, rotate down, take a break if you're getting some heat in the arms. This can really bring heat into the shoulder and heat into the body. And then it's up to you how much you want to reach the wrists apart and challenge those muscles associated with the rotator cuff. Shoulder screws. And let's give the arms a break here. Woo. So one thing that can feel good to do is just swing the arms, let them cross in front of the body. Yes, nice work, guys. Those of you that I can see. And then whatever, bring your right arm on top one side, one first round, and then your left arm on top. So switch which arm comes on top. Getting a little bit of relief from that work. And we talked about our cervical spine. We did some exercises for the cervical spine. Let's talk about the thoracic spine, which is associated with the rib cage. So if it feels comfortable, grab your hands, point your fingers together, draw your chin down to your chest, and feel the shoulder blades open and separate from one another. You still have a soft bend in the knees. Take a moment and breathe into this stretch that you're getting across the back. And then lift your gaze up, separate your hands like you're peeling open the curtains and you're looking outside for the sunny day, and then squeeze those shoulder blades together. Enjoy this stretch, your gaze is lifted a little bit, and then we'll move a little bit faster. Bring the hands together, point and shoot and round. Open up the shoulder blades to the back of the room, rounding in the upper back and the thoracic spine, and peel open the curtains. Lift the gaze, lift your heart a little bit here. And you might even notice that you're gonna get a stretch in your pec muscles. Big inhale, exhale, shooting round, chin down, gaze is down at the toes here. And peel it open, lift up, gaze is up at the screen or just above it. Final time, shoot and round, and peel open the curtains. Bring your arms down. We have a lot of shoulder work here. So taking the work out of the shoulders. We'll get into the lumbar spine and talk about that a little bit. And then we're going to go back into the shoulders and do a little bit more work in the thoracic spine. The lumbar spine is the low curved area in your back. And we have a tendency, most people have a tendency to hang out either in a forward tilt of their pelvis position or a posterior tilt of the pelvis position. So I like to call this sassy butt. If we have a forward tilt, you have a sassy butt. And then if you have a super backward tilt, right? So if you're doing this all day long, you have a cashew shape in your body. So we're gonna put our hands on our hips and we're just gonna explore sassy and cashew. Make sure you have that soft bend in the knees, that little bit of external rotation or tearing the ground apart in the legs, just to bring in more hip stabilizing muscles into this work. So we're just working through sassy and cashew. Now go into your sassy position with me. So that's the front of the hips are tilted down, the back of the hips are up. And then notice if you can engage your low belly and your core to help you go into cashew. When you're into cashew, your tailbone is reaching down to the heels, and then take it back into a sassy position. So just a couple more times, knowing those cues, sassy and cashew, will be beneficial in this workout and any yoga workout we do together. Let's go back up to the thoracic spine again. Bring your arms out wide. The palms of the hands are down. Corkscrew the hips, soft bend in the knees, and we're gonna just glide over to one side. You wanna try to keep your hips right over your ankles. We're moving above the hips. That's where the corkscrew comes in. And then let's glide the other direction. Nice work, guys. And then moving back and forth, finding these glides. Let's go back to the original spot. Pause for a moment and notice where you feel sensation here. Maybe in this hip that you've left behind. So just enjoy that sensation in the hip for a moment and then glide the other direction. Notice if you get the same sensation in this side of the body or maybe in someplace a little bit different. A couple more times. Think about opening up your armpit and sliding it and reaching over a counter to grab something really far away. That corkscrew of the feet and hips will help stabilize you here. And then gliding in the other direction. Nice work, guys. And then come to standing. Okay, that's it for the arms today. I bet your shoulders are nice and warm from that work. I'm going to do something called a hip root now. So take your hands, place them on your hips, and then I'm going to send my hips back 45 degrees. So I'm moving over to one side of the room, but then also back. You'll notice that my hip is hinged, or my hips are hinged here, and my back is relatively flat. So I'm 45 degrees to the back of the room. And then I'm going to stand up nice and tall, push down through the heels, squeeze my glutes a little bit, don't lock out the knees, and then send my hips over to the other side. Both knees are bent a little bit here if you can't tell. Now push through the heels, squeeze the glutes, stand up tall, energy through the crown to head. Let's move back and forth a little bit more quickly. Little hip root. So notice as you do that root, what sensations you're getting there. Maybe some deep stretches in the hips, that's what we're going for. I want to make a point real quick here. So when I come into this hip root, look at the screen real quick. I'm looking at you guys, but what would be best for you is if your chin was more down and your gaze was at the floor. That would make your neck more in a neutral orientation. And then when you stand, you can look at the screen and then send your hips down, but send your gaze down. So that's a better representation of the work that we're after. When we do these video workouts, it's often tempting to look at the screen the whole time, and then that can be a little challenging on the neck after a while. Final time, hip rooting into our opposite side, and then we'll come to standing. Let's get a little sassy in our hip root work. Take your tail and make it sassy, like we did before. And then take your tail and make it cashew, like we did. Make it sassy, make it cashew. Now let's put these 4 points together. Let's go back into the left. Now you're going to swish your booty in a sassy position along the back wall. Come over to the right. Now you're going to come forward and get a little cashew on me. Let's go back into the left. Sassy, swish against the back wall. Come over and come a little cashew forward. Pause here with a little forward cashew. Let's take it the opposite direction. Back against the back wall. We're a little sassy in the spine. Swish. That little swish, maybe you can feel your hamstrings working. Come cashew up in the front. And one more time. Sassy back in, hips back in the wall. Sassy across the back of the room, over onto the other side. And then hips forward. All right. And then let's just speed that up a couple times. All right. So I like to call these big, juicy hip circles. And these are a nice thing to do in the morning. If you're brushing your teeth, you can do some big, juicy hip circles. Take them the other direction. So I like to break it down and make sure you understand what we're doing, but then have some fun with it. Get a little bit more fluid with the movement. Awesome work, guys. We're going to work on some internal hip or some deeper hip rotation work. So if you'd like to bring a chair or a prop in for your balance, you can do that. Or if you have a wall nearby, you can use the wall for your balance. We're going to shift the weight onto I'm shifting onto my left leg. So I have a soft bend in the knee. I shift the weight over by lifting my opposite heel. I have a slight bend in the knee. And then we're going to rotate the right knee in. You can move your toe wherever it works for you and then rotate that knee out. Now I'm going to put my palms here on my torso because I don't want my torso to move. I just want the femur head and the hip socket to move. We're just putting a single leg, an internal and external rotation. You can keep your toes right on the ground as we do this work. Now I'm going to demonstrate. If I take my torso with me, my torso is moving, not my hip. So I want to keep my torso forward. You can use your computer screen to make sure you're not moving and just get this internal and external rotation from the hip. You might even feel in your glute a little bit some of the work happening. Come to internal rotation with me. Some of you might feel comfortable lifting and opening and stepping down. Coming into internal rotation, lifting and opening and stepping down. Internal rotation, lifting, opening, and stepping down. Great job. Let's get into both feet and give that left leg a little bit of break for doing all that balance work. And then shifting into the right leg, spread the toes wide. We didn't do that yet. We'll do that at the end, but spread the toes wide, shift the weight onto the right leg, keep a soft bend in the knees, hands on the torso, and then bring your left leg in internal rotation. Notice right away, for me, it feels very different on the left side than the right. And then open it up. So I'm kind of on my toe and my ball of the foot. And I'm just moving in a range that works for me. So as I said in the beginning of class, if you have any sharp pain or discomfort while you do this, maybe back off. If you have sharp pain is bad, slight discomfort, that's okay. So you are your own coach. You make your own choices on what is best for your body. I'm just here to give you some suggestions on ways to move it. As we're doing this work together, you can take the option to meet me internally, lift and externally rotate. You don't have to lift and externally rotate if you're not comfortable with your balance yet. But just take a moment to think about all the joints that we've worked today. Our wrists, our elbows, our shoulders, our cervical spine, our thoracic spine, our lumbar spine. We're down into our hips. And then pause, give your right leg a break. So making our way down, let's give the ankles a little bit of work. So I'd like for you to take a split stance. So bring your right leg back, but don't go back too far, and make sure you're in train tracks. So you don't want to be on a tightrope. You want to be in train tracks. Taking your right foot back, you're going to keep the orientation of the toes forward. So that in itself might feel challenging for you. Oftentimes people step back with the heel back. Can you bring the heel into this orientation where both sets of toes are forward, and then peel the back heel up and then lower the back heel down? You might use a wall or you might use a chair for a prop here. So a couple things are going on here. First of all, we're stretching out the fascia on the bottom of the foot. So pause here, spread the toes wide, and then as you lift the heel up over the bottom of the foot, feel the toes spread and stretch as you move them into this flexion. You'll also notice the muscles of the lower leg getting some movement, maybe some stretch. When the heel lowers, you get your Achilles tendon nice and stretched. And then when you lift the heel, you get, I saw a nod there. Thank you for that nod, that acknowledgement. Yeah. And then you might even feel some fatigue in your calf muscle from doing this work. So we're going to pause. We're going to bring our first leg back and take our opposite leg back behind and do the same thing. Just working on that orientation of getting both sets of toes forward can be super challenging. By bringing the heel in, we're able to really dump into that back heel and balance better. So if it's challenging to get this forward orientation, shift a little bit more weight to the front leg. That'll help. And bend the front knee a little bit when you do it. So you're lifting and lowering in the opposite side. So we're gaining some ankle strength here, some ankle mobility. We're going into plantar flexion here, dorsiflexion here on the ankle. And this mobility in your ankle is important for walking. If you think about how you walk, when you walk, that is a series of single leg balances, one right after the other. But in order to land and receive each balance as you walk, you want that mobility and your strength in your ankles to get that. You also want all the tissues to be hydrated and move and glide across each other when you're doing this work. All right, let's give this a break. Take your back foot forward and step it to meet the front foot. This one's going to feel pretty stretchy. So keeping the weight back in your original left leg, take your right leg and take it behind you and notice if you can take the tops of your toes on the ground. And then it's up to you how hard you press that back leg into the ground and stand tall in the spine. And you're going to notice that you get a stretch in the front of the shin. This is the muscle, if you remember ice skating for the first time in the winter or roller skating for the first time, this is that muscle that just cramps up on you when you skate. So amount of pressure that you want, no more than what you want, and then release that, shift your weight, and then we'll get that stretch on the opposite side, pressing the toes down, standing up tall. And it's that open front part of the ankle that you're energetically pushing sort of toward the floor to get the stretch. So what I failed to mention earlier, but I hope you're doing now, you want to breathe when you're doing all this work, particularly when we're balancing or doing something that creates sensation in the body. We have a tendency to hold our breath to get stability. So we want to learn how to find stability in the body without holding our breath. We're going to do a balance exercise here. So come to standing, soft bend in the knees, find that activation in the hips. So if that corkscrew isn't making sense to you quite yet, you can tear the ground apart. That's probably easier than pushing the ground together in this one. Bring your arms out in front of you and bring your hands together. I'm going to show you from the side. And then take your right arm and peel it, the fingers alongside your left, inside of your left arm, and then start to rotate. So think about the rib cage rotating as you continue to peel your right arm back, reaching the right arm back and taking your gaze to look at your right fingers. Take a breath here. If you're struggling with the balance, your front left arm can always touch a wall or a chair to help. Let your right or your back arm sweep down along your side. We're going to do this a couple more times and talk about some things. Let's try that again. Right arm peels alongside the left arm. Feel the rib cage rotate. We're trying to get movement in the rib cage, not the hips. Let your eye gaze follow your fingers. That can make it more of a balance challenge as the eyes follow the fingers. So we have a rotational movement in the body and a balance challenge. Keep breathing here. Bring your back arm, come up to meet your front arm. Now find that corkscrew. Here's the activation this time. Same movement. Peel open the rib cage, but use your glutes, squeeze them, use your hips to fight the rotation in the hips as you rotate in the upper body. Take a breath here. Breathe into this shape. Yes. And then bring your back arm down to meet the front arm. So it's really nice to take a deep breath and move in a twisted shape. Taking it on the other side, rebend the knees, re-corkscrew the legs, arms out in front. This time it's the opposite arm, left arm for me. I'm going to peel along the inside. And this peeling motion is more about the rib cage, rotating my rib cage on top of my hips. Reach the arm back. See how you feel on this side of the body. Maybe you can take your eye gaze to the back hand and then drop it along down your side. 2 more times. This time, look at your left fingertips or the fingertips of the arm that you're moving. Peel it open. That's the balance challenge, as you look at the fingertips and taking the eye gaze back and behind. Drop your back arm 1 more time. This time, we're really going to stabilize the hips. Peel the left arm along the right arm or whatever arms you're working. Stabilize the hips. Draw your belly button into the spine. Squeeze the glutes. Don't let the hips rotate as the ribs rotate. Reaching your arm back behind. 1 breath in. And drop your left arm down to your side to meet your right arm. We're going to finish with a tiny bit of toe work. So hopefully you're barefoot. Hopefully your socks are off. Go back to where we started class. Find the triangles in the feet, the big toe mound, the piggy toe mound, the heels. Lift all 10 toes and separate them. Spread them out nice and wide. Now, for some people, it doesn't happen, and that's okay. But our toes are operated by muscles that connect in our lower legs. So we're working our lower legs right now. Place all 10 toes down on the mat and see if you can look down and see space in between each toe. That's what we're going for, space. Your toes are part of your balance. Lift all 10 toes, spread them out nice and wide, create space between the toes, place them down on the ground, and this time take the toe pads and crunch them back just a little bit so that your toe knuckles rise up a little bit. Pretend like you're a tree frog, suck it onto a tree, and then notice if you feel your arches lift in your feet. Maybe you can feel your glutes turn on. So we're all connected. All this tissue is connected. Balance is informed by the feet, by the toes, by the core. Release your little grip with the feet. Soften, bend the knees, corkscrew the hips. Inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Take whatever mind is safe in your shoulders, and you're gonna pull your rib cage up out of your pelvic floor, create length in your body. This movement practice is about fighting gravity. If you think about sitting and the weight of gravity today you are liberating yourself from gravity. You are fighting back. One more big inhale. Bring your arms back down to your sides. It is a pleasure and an honor to get to share this practice with you. Thank you so much for joining me today.